Our busy lives frequently result in stress, tiredness, and even burnout. One of the main causes of disease is stress, which can also trigger anxiety and despair. Fortunately, there are many philosophical concepts found in the works of the ancient Taoist sages that could help us cope with stress and lessen our never-ending problems. From a Taoist perspective, the moment we attempt to push anything, we are going against the natural course. According to the Taoists, forcing entails meddling with or even acting against nature, which only causes problems. Observing numerous modern societies, we observe that we are always imposing our will on existence. In addition to trying to manipulate nature to our will, humans also try to exert control over forces beyond our control, such as fate and outside events. We're obsessed with control, and the Taoist sages teach the opposite, letting go. In Taoist ancient scriptures, the Tao Te Ching, Zhuangzi, and the lesser-known Liezi, letting go is a recurring theme. Lao Tzu, the mysterious author of the Tao Te Ching, serves as a reminder of how nature takes care of itself, and that everything gets done without intervention. Liezi also noted how miserable we are because of our obsession with obtaining happiness outside of ourselves, and are clinging to external situations. It's precisely because we can't let go of our restless pursuit of happiness that we aren't. In actuality, worry is created by our attempts to avoid being uncomfortable. The writings of the ancient Taoists convince us to choose a different path. We should let go of our preconceived notions and worldviews, learn to see emptiness, allow nature to take its course, and move in harmony with nature instead of against it. The objective: living a simpler, less stressful life by adhering to the universal Taoist concept. This video explores ancient Taoist ideas that may serve as remedies for reducing worry in a world out of control. Remedy 1. Abandoning intervention. Zhuangzi, the Taoist sage, was skilled at doing nothing, because if he tampered with nature's workings, it would go out of control and turn into something it isn't. He refrained from doing so. He watched things around him ripen as he let them to run their natural course. Doing nothing is a sin in many modern cultures that are fixated on work and performance. We don't let ourselves do nothing, as we ought to be active all the time. Even if our efforts just serve to obstruct our attempts, we would rather strive against nature than not work at all. We exert as much pressure and effort as we can, frequently without success, and occasionally even impeding our advancement, which causes worry and weariness. We honor things' natural progression when we leave them alone. We don't always need to interfere with our surroundings, at home or at work. Whether we like the result or not, life always works itself out in the end, and problems frequently find solutions on their own. Furthermore, things that appear to be bad luck could actually be blessings in disguise, and the things we want to get could work against us. Moreover, trying to control the cosmos is pointless, because it always has its way. Remedy 2. Release the quest for joy. Zhuangzi was unable to determine whether the pursuit of happiness was the goal of all those busy individuals. However, he could tell that their methods of pursuing it were terrible. People are stressed, always in a rush in their obsessive search for happiness. Their faces look tired and grim. If the chasing of happiness makes our lives bleak, we might as well stop it, argued Zhuangzi. We find ourselves in a lose-lose scenario where we not only deplete ourselves, but also fail to obtain the desired outcome. While having fame and fortune may seem good at first, they eventually simply cause us more anxiety, because we always worry about losing these things as soon as we have them. Zhuangzi stated, and I quote, "Those who think that wealth is the proper thing for them cannot give up their revenues. Those who seek distinction cannot give up the thought of fame. Those who cleave to power cannot give the handle of it to others. While they hold their grasp of those things, they are afraid of losing them. When they let them go, they are grieved, and they will not look at a single example from which they might perceive the folly of their restless pursuits. Such men are under the doom of heaven." End quote. Zhuangzi argued that contentment and well-being become possible if we stop acting with them in view. If we don't desire happiness and well-being, the wrong of not having what we want and the right of getting what we wish disappear, and thus we don't worry about getting or not getting happiness. Instead, we enjoy happiness because we have stopped caring about obtaining it. Remedy 3. Gazing into nothingness. Liezi argued that people generally like to be praised, as they feel good as others recognize their accomplishments, but Liezi valued emptiness instead, as he explained that we're less stressed when empty of all these attachments. If we were less concerned with the validation and acceptance of other people, we would have less worries. Liezi said that we seek to receive credit for things that aren't entirely our own doing. Many of the things that people think highly of us are dependent upon favorable conditions or innate qualities. Our activities only influence the outcome when the correct conditions are met. Numerous other elements also play a role. For example, people who receive praise as models receive it primarily for having good genetics leading to high attractiveness and adhering to current beauty standards. So, what accomplishment is genuinely their own? Instead of worrying about obtaining praise that ultimately doesn't belong to anyone, Liezi urges us to quiet down and let go. Seeing the emptiness of things can help us cultivate stillness and peace of mind. If you do not know how to keep still in this crazy world, you will be drawn into all kinds of unnecessary trouble. End quote. There's nothing to many of the things we seek after, but the worth we assign to them. Accolades are meaningless. Not only that, but it's not even justified most of the time. The same is true for a lot of other activities that we consider important, but are really pointless. It seems as though we participate in them merely as a diversion from the meaninglessness of it all. But according to Liezi, we would be better off if we would accept this emptiness, embrace it, and give up all of these games, the chasing, the rat races, and the never-ending search for happiness. Remedy 4. The inner doctrine. By continually stretching ourselves beyond our capacities, we ask for trouble, so thought Taoist sage Lao Tzu. In his profound work, The Tao Te Ching, he wrote that those who stand on tiptoes do not stand firmly, and those who rush ahead don't get very far. Standing on tiptoes occurs if we try to extend our control over things we cannot control. So argued Zhuangzi. The book The Way of Chuang Tzu explains the difference between someone whose law is within himself and someone whose law is outside himself. The first person acts without being influenced by the approval and disapproval of others. The second person is directed by things outside his control, and thus becomes a plaything of his circumstances. Whatever happens in the outside world decides his mood. When he tries to extend his power over objects, those objects gain control over him, said Zhuangzi. When things go well, he's happy and content. When things don't go well, he's unhappy and full of worry. And thus he tries to get what he wants and avoid what he doesn't want, always concerned with a universe he ultimately cannot control. I quote, "He who seeks to extend his control is nothing but an operator. While he thinks he is surpassing others, others see him merely straining, stretching, to stand on tiptoe." End quote. Therefore, one of the things Zhuangzi's words may teach us is to focus our attention and desire inward instead of outward. In the end, our thoughts determine how we feel, not the outside environment. Therefore, it makes more sense to change our thoughts than to try to influence our surroundings. If we want to be content, everything is out of control around us. However, our attitudes, decisions, and beliefs toward the environment are under our control. The less we look outside of ourselves for fulfillment, the less risky it is for us to find it. Remedy 5. Unperturbed by fate's whims. Zhuangzi observed that not fate itself, but worrying about fate gets people in trouble. The archer of Zhuangzi's story shoots just fine if he only shoots for the sake of shooting, but when there's a prize in his view, he starts caring more. Even though his skill hasn't changed, he thinks more of winning than of shooting, and the need to win drains him of power, Zhuangzi stated. So, how should we handle fate? How do we treat an uncertain future with the possibility of fortune or misfortune? Liezi tells us about an older man from the kingdom of Kai, who was afraid that the sky would fall and the earth would break up, and if that happens, he'd have no place to run, and his death would be unavoidable. So, a friend tried to calm him down by assuring him that the sky won't fall, so there was nothing to worry about. Then, a sage told him there is, in fact, a possibility of the sky falling, although the chances are small, so the elder shouldn't be too concerned. Then Liezi chuckled and said, "It's nonsense even to think about whether heaven and earth can or cannot be destroyed. Whether they will perish or not is something we don't know. If heaven and earth will not perish, that's great. We can live our lives without worry. However, if they will perish, that's something we can't do much about. So why worry about it?" End quote. We should not waste our time worrying about whether or not the earth will end. According to an elderly Taoist sage, it's something totally beyond our power. When it occurs, it occurs. Furthermore, we have no idea exactly what this catastrophe we fear implies. How does it feel to be deceased? What happens, for instance, if we get divorced or lose our jobs? Even while these events might perhaps be blessings in disguise, we tend to view them as catastrophes. Once more, we have no control over anything that occurs, thus fretting about it is pointless. Thank you for watching.